to have the opportunity to speak on these recent results on feedback stabilization of quantum systems. So first I will, a short introduction. So here what you see is a classical feedback loop. So you have a classical system with a classical input. This is your control variables. It is submitted to perturbation, W. And what you have is you measure something, which is the output, the measure output Y. And typically, what interests engineers and in application, you want to maintain Y at a certain set point, YC. You take the difference, you have an error. Here you have an algorithm, typically a PID controller, that adjusts you, your control input, such that Y follow more or less YC, okay, the reference. So this is a typical feedback loop. For quantum system, the problem is when the system is quantum, it is well known that if you observe it, so if you measure it, you change the state. So you have to take into account what is called the measurement back action. And this changes the rule of the game. The first, and you have different notions of feedback. So I will explain in this talk two notions of feedback. The first notion is called by physicists measurement-based feedback. And in this case, it is the notion of feedback which is the closest notion to the classical controller. Where in this case, the controller is classical, and all this part is done in the classical world, okay? So, which means that your control is a classical variable. It appears, it influences the system in a controlled Schrödinger equation, okay? And it should depend only on the past value of the measurements, okay? This is measurement-based feedback. So, and you have another concept of control is when all this feedback loop is at the quantum scale, which means that you have a quantum system, you connect it to a quantum controller such that the closed loop system converges to some goal state. Okay, and in this case, what you have to do is to do all these things at the quantum level. Okay, so and I will present these two notions of control scheme. So why control of quantum system? Because first you have, it is motivated by application and especially by quantum information processing, which means to build a quantum memory, to do some robust quantum game with error correction. Error correction can be interpreted as a feedback scheme, okay? And recently, Serge Haroche and David Wineland shared the Nobel Prize on physics for, in fact, very nice experiment where, in fact, they manipulate and they control, in fact, individual quantum systems. So for David Wineland, he has a lot of experiments where, in fact, he controls atoms or ions with probe photons. And Serge Haroche in Paris, he has done exactly the converse, which means that he controls photons, but with probe atoms. And we have the chance to have collaborate with this, the team of Serge Haroche in Paris for the first feedback experiment where we use a quantum state feedback. Okay? So I will base essentially my presentation on what we have learned by working with, in fact, this group of physicists. So the experiment is called the LKB photon box. LKB is for Laboratoire Kastler-Brossel, which is a famous physicist laboratory in Paris. And first I will present this first experimental realization of the quantum state feedback. It was 3 years ago. Then I will emphasize the fact that why should we use the density operator instead of a wave function. And here it's a good way to understand what is a quantum state. It is a statistical state. It's not a usual state as a classical state, position or velocity of a particle. It is something which is very different Okay? And then I will present some proposal with realistic simulation where in fact we use the second kind of feedback where in fact the controller is also a quantum system. It's for the same experiment setup and to stabilize what is called Schrödinger cats, which means a coherent superposition of classical state of radiation. And then, so this system is a very nice system because the mathematics are almost elementary, that you can understand how to code in your model the basic law of quantum physics. And in fact, most of the model, and especially the model that used in fact David Weinand when he controlled atoms with photons, okay? In this case, the models are time continuous, and the structure of the models and the equation are a little bit more, in fact, difficult to understand because it is stochastic differential equation, okay? But they have exactly the same structure as the discrete time system, this continuous time system. And then I will finish by some open issue. So here you have a schematic of this experiment in the group of Serge Haroche. So what you have, what is the goal of this experiment that has been published 3 years ago? The goal is in fact to stabilize the number of photons that are trapped between these two mirrors. This is symbolized here as this blue zone. Okay. So typically what we want is we want to maintain the number of photons to 3. So the setup is an integer, number of photons, take 3. For this, what we have to see how to count the photons. We send probe atoms, this is this magenta torus, okay? And for this, what we have here, a detector, here it is the classical controller. So you are here in the classical world, and all this evolution until the detection, it's follow the quantum rule, okay? And what is very interesting here is the fact that this system is a discrete time system, and the sampling period is quite large for such kind of system. This is 80 microseconds. So with a real-time controller, you can do some computation here, some elaborate computation here. I have a small animation, okay, to explain the feedback loop. You will see. Okay. So this is just one sampling period here. So first we start by preparing atoms. There are two-level systems here. These atoms fly between the two mirrors, and here they interact with the photons. Okay? All this evolution obeys to a Schrödinger equation. Okay? Then there are post-manipulation of the atoms alone, still Schrödinger equation, and then they are detected. So here you have a collapse of the wave packet. Okay? And here, so I will continue. So here they are detected. And here you enter into, in fact, the classical world, which means that you have a classical information, you do some computation, and here you send, this is the actuator, and it is nothing else but a pulse of classical light that we send towards the cavity. Okay? So the light, the photons that are trapped in between the two mirrors are in fact microwave photons. So it is a frequency around 10 gigahertz. And this actuator is a classical antenna that you have in your, for example, cellular phone. Exactly the same technology. Okay? And you just plug some pulse with a certain amplitude and phase. Okay? And the time of this feedback loop is 80 microseconds. So you have time to do some computation. Okay. What are the rules that you use to construct a model of the system? So it is the 3 basic quantum rules. So first, the Schrödinger equation. So Schrödinger equation, It's a differential equation. You have a Hilbert space H, and here you have a wave function. It is a unitary vector. It is a ket with a Dirac notation. Here H is a Hermitian operator, okay, that depends on your control input by typically this kind of linear dependence. Okay. Here you have, and it is important to understand that for this application we cannot just use the wave function, and you will understand later why. The true quantum state is not the wave function, it is the density operator. So the way, when you try to make the relationship for a pure state, the density operator is just the orthogonal projector defined by, in fact, the unitary vector. Okay, and in this case, it obeys to the Liouville von Neumann equation. Okay. First point. Second point, it is called the collapse of the wave packet, so the classical rule of quantum measurements. So when you measure a quantity or a quantum system, it is attached to another Hermitian operator, say O. You take its spectral decomposition, okay, where P mu is the orthogonal projection on the eigenspace labeled by mu, and if your detector tells you it is mu, then what you have is you have just to take the orthogonal projection of the wave function on the eigenspace that is given to you by the detection. So the measurement, the output, is given by the results of the detection. And since this vector is of length less than 1, you renormalize it. And the square of its length, it is exactly the probability to detect. Okay? And if you plug this with the density operator, you obtain exactly this formula where, in fact, you have to sandwich rho, this positive operator, between the two projections, and then you renormalize. Okay. So it's a translation of this relationship to rho when you use this definition. Okay. And the last rule that you need is typically for the photon box, you have a composite system. You have on one side the photon, the system of interest, and the other side you have the probe atoms. It is the metal. In this case, you have a composite system. And in the quantum world, when you make a system by several subsystems, the Hilbert space is not the Cartesian product. It is the tensor product. Which means that H is a sum of, in fact, different operators. This operator is only the Hermitian operator on S. Here, the operator on M, only Hermitian operator on M. So you tensor with identity. And here you have the interaction Hamiltonian, which is made of a sum of tensor product of operator on S and operator on M. And the last point is the same for O. Since you measure only the atoms, you have identity on the photons, and you have the measurement operator on the atoms. So, and we will use these three rules to construct the structure of a model of a system. So the system is given by this. Here. So the Hilbert space for the photon, it is the simplest Hilbert space that you can imagine of infinite dimension. So, and the Hilbert basis is labeled by n from 0 to infinity. It corresponds to photon number state, which means there is precise number of photons inside the cavity. It is highly non-classical quantum state, this kind of state. For the matter, it is the simplest Hilbert space of finite dimension that you can imagine. So dimension 2. Okay? In this case, you have two eigenvector, eigenbasis, the ground state, okay, and the excited state, E. And your composite system, the wave function, is in the tensor product, which means that to construct an orthogonal basis of your tensor product, just take the orthogonal, this rule here. So here is the entire wave function of your system. So first, I will detail a little bit what is the system S. It is the quantum harmonic oscillator. So I will not enter into the detail, but it is important that at this level, what you need essentially is to understand what is the annihilation operator. It is the operator that destroys one photon. Okay. And with this annihilation operator and with this commutation rule, more or less you can do in a non-commutative way all the computation. Okay. It's essential to understand this. And the last part is in fact what is a classical state, the wave function of a classical state, which is called a coherent state. It is in fact a superposition of photon number state, okay? And with a Poisson distribution. So it is very easy to prepare this kind of state in the cavity, okay? And it is not very easy to prepare photon number state, okay, inside the cavity. So for the atoms, they are represented by two-level system. All what you need, which replace the annihilation operator, is this operator, sigma minus, that sends the excited state to the ground state. And then you construct all Pauli matrices with the usual commutation rule here. Okay. And the last point, it is the same for the harmonic oscillator or the two-level system, the density matrix. It is a bounded, in fact, always a bounded operator, trace class, okay, and it is positive, non-negative, and the trace is 1, and it is Hermitian, of course. So this is the state space of the system. So it is an operator. So now let us look rapidly what's going on during the quantum evolution between, in fact, this, where the atom is here, and when the atom is here. So when the atoms leave the preparation box of the atoms, it is clear that it has nothing to do with the wave function, which means that the global wave function is a tensor product. After this evolution, which is defined by a unitary operator, it is given by, in fact, the Schrödinger propagator, which underlies the Schrödinger equation. What you have is you have no more a tensor product. You have something where you have a component around G, and it's defined this operator, Mg, and a component along E for the beta, and is defined another operator, Mp. They are called measurement operator. And since U is unitary, what you have this kind of partition of unity. Okay, the unit operator is the sum of two things like this. Okay. This is the fact that you have a unitary evolution. And now I will discuss a little bit about the interaction that produce this measurement operator Me and Mg. Either you have a resonant interaction where in fact you can exchange energy between the atom and the cavity. So it is one regime of interaction, or you have also a dispersive interaction where in fact you exchange phase. And it is this quite subtle interaction that allows to count photons without destroying them. Okay? Because in a photodetector, when you count photons, they are destroyed. Here you want to count photons, but you do not want to destroy them, because you want to keep the number of photons to 3 inside the cavity. Okay? So, this is the state just before the detection. We assume that the detection is an instantaneous process, which means that you detect the energy of the atoms. So, either you detect G or E, and you keep only this branch or this part of the wave function, and you're renormalized. So, if you detect Y, you have to use this back action on the wave function of the photons, and the state becomes separable. So you get rid of the atoms after the detection, because the state is separable. And in this case, when you use this rule, but with the density matrix, what you obtain is in fact a Markov process. So the state, just after the detection, is given by two choices. Either you detect G or you detect E. And the probability to detect G and E depends on the value of the state before the detection. And it's the way that information on the state gets outside. and comes to the classical world. And it is important at this level to notice that when you consider, you have a Markov process and you can consider the expectation value of ρ plus knowing only ρ, without knowing the detection. Since the normalization is exactly the probability, when you take this quantity times this, plus this quantity times this, you get exactly this expectation, and you obtain a linear map. And the linear map is a kind of diffusion, because the sum of the weight, it is identity. So you can see this equation as a kind of barycentric mean, but in a non-commutative way. This is typically quantum diffusion. Okay, and if we have now the control is just something which in fact is a unitary operation on the cavity. So the fact that you inject a coherent pulse with your microwave antenna, it corresponds in fact to a unitary operation which is called classically, which is well known in quantum optics, the displacement operator. So at the end what you obtain from a mathematical point of view is a control Markov process. Your input is you. You have a hidden state. You never measure ρ directly, but you measure, you have output 1. Okay? And for counting photons without destroying them, what you have is you can design the dispersive interaction between the atoms and the photons such that the operator mg and me, they are in fact function of the photon number operator. And you see that mg dag mg plus me dag me is equal to 1 because cosine squared plus sine squared is equal to 1. And here you have two parameters. Okay. What is the open loop behavior of this system? So you put u is equal to 0, okay, and you see what's going on. So I will show you first, in fact, experimental data on this. So this corresponds to a true experiment. So I will. So what you have here, it will be the detection. Okay? Here, it is in fact the diagonal of ρ, which is the population. So you have a truncation of the Hilbert space to up to 9 photons. And here you have the density matrix. So you have the ρ and the columns, and here you have a value. So this quantity here is just the diagonal of the density matrix. And you will have here along the time. So the initial state is a classical state. And that it is easy to prepare, in fact, a coherent state with an average number of photons of 3. And you will see what's going on. So you will see here exactly the back action of the measurement of the system. Okay, you just measure the system. So you see that very rapidly the back action of the system, of the measurements, in fact, concentrate the density matrix of the diagonal. This is typically what is called QND, quantum non-demolition measurements. And then, if you continue to measure, what you see, in fact, you see quantum jump. You see the fact that, for example, if I stop here, more or less, here it is 0 photon, when all the mass is concentrated, probability is here, 1 photon, 2 photon, and 3 photon. More or less, you have around 3 photons. With a certain probability, you have also 4 photons. Okay? And what you continue to measure, okay? And what you see that slowly the photon number decreases. This is due to the fact that you have what is called decoherence. The photon lifetime between the two mirrors is not infinite. So sometimes the cavity absorbs 1 photon, but it doesn't tell you. And you see this because of the statistic of the jump here change. So it's the way that the information of the number of photons get outside the system. And if you wait a long time, you see that the system relaxes to zero, because you have a very low temperature, no thermal photon, and at the end, what you have is zero photon. Okay. So here what you observe is, in fact, the life of the photon. In fact, you see the jump and the fact that the number of photons decrease. The goal of the control is, in fact, to maintain the number of photons to freeze, so to fight against, in fact, the decoherence, the fact that your system is not perfect. So, more or less, you compensate for perturbation, exactly as the same phenomena as for an airplane. You have regulators that compensate for turbulence. Okay, same way here. Well, you can put this in a perfect mathematical study for this quantum chain. So what you have, this Markov process, what you have a lot of, in fact, stationary points, which are all photon number state. They are stationary point of this. You have martingales, okay, which has a bunch of martingales which are given by any function g of n. And you can prove convergence. In fact, at least for any realization, you converge to one of these photon number states. But the convergence is not deterministic, it is probabilistic. The probability to converge to n bar is given by the initial value of rho 0 at the position n bar, n bar. This comes from the fact that you have a martingale for this system. So, in a certain sense, you have a stable system with converge, but not to the good things. Okay? And the control is, in fact, to make this convergence to, in fact, n bar always equals to 3. So the structure of the controller is this one. During the sample time, you read the measurement outcome. You update your quantum state by a quantum filter. Then you compute U as a function of rho k. So your estimation of a quantum state, which is a matrix, and then you apply your control by this micro impulse. Okay. And I will not discuss on all these techniques, so this is quantum filtering techniques, and the static feedback is based on what is called the control Lyapunov techniques, and it exploits the fact that you have a lot of invariant, open loop invariant, martingales in open loop, and you exploit this to construct a closed loop straight Lyapunov function to ensure convergence, exponential convergence to the goal. Okay. I will show you closed loop data. Okay? Now, so we start exactly, so it is in closed loop. So here you will see the Lyapunov function, which is the distance to the goal, and here you will see the control. So the initial density matrix, and in fact it's the initial population, which is nothing else than the diagonal of the density matrix. So what you see is that you activate the control until you reach almost 3 photons. Okay? And you continue, but the photon lifetime is not infinite. So sometimes cavity destroys 1 photon, you react after that, and you re-inject a good number of photons, and so on. And so, in average, you maintain your system around 3 photons. Okay? So what you see here, you have two feedback. You have the first feedback is due to the measurements, where you concentrate, in fact, the density matrix to the diagonal. Okay, so the first feedback effect. And the second one is through the classical feedback scheme. It's in fact to control the dynamics on the diagonal. Okay? Well. And now, up to now, and in the model I present you, I can do all the computation with a wave function. But why using the density matrix? because of this. For the experiments, you do not have all the knowledge. And assume, for example, that you have detection error rates, which means that you have this classical probability. Here you have the probability to detect E, whereas the atoms collapse in G. Okay? It is typically, for these experiments, is 10%. You have exactly the same thing for the probability to detect G, whereas the atom collapse in E. This is the detection error rates. What can we do if we start with a wave function? So what you update, we update this. All what we can do is in fact to compute the expectation of ρ plus, knowing ρ, and knowing the detection. And in this case, what you have to mix quantum probability with classical probability. And to do this, you use the Bayes law. If you use the Bayes law, more or less, you obtain a formula which is similar to this, but here you have a partial mixing. Because you have, if you detect G, you know that you have a certain part, but you use this formula, but you may have also detect G, but you have also the part that you have your error detection. If you combine this, classical probability plus this quantum probability law, you obtain this Markov chain. And now it is clear that you cannot use pure state, because if ρ is of rank 1 here, now ρ plus will be at least of rank 2 in this case. Okay? And for physicists, this is the true quantum state. Psi is just an intellectual construction. For them, it is the true quantum state. So you can use psi for numerical simulation, but the true quantum state is given by this reference. And it is important to understand that the probability to detect G is given by the normalization. Okay. So, and what you can do is you can completely generalize this. So what you have is you have a Krauss map, and which replaces this eta G, eta E, it is a left stochastic matrix. So you mixed, in fact, quantum probability with this Krauss map and classical probability. And what you do some partial mixing depending on your detection error. And this is typically the structure of any open quantum system in discrete time. It will be given by this, the recurrence. And for the experiment, what we have in the data that I show you, we have in fact 6 possible detections and 21 possible measurements in between operators, including cavity decoherence and so on. So which means that the stochastic matrix is a matrix in general that has a lot of columns and few rows. The rows is given to you by the number of possible of detection. Okay? It's the usual things. Now, let us go to, in fact, exploiting this back action of a measurement, okay, but in a complete way, which means that, you know, in this scheme, part of the control is done, convergence is done by the measurement, and part is done by the classical feedback. But you can do everything just by, in fact, by the atoms, okay? And in this case, I will show you some numerical, realistic numerical simulation to stabilize Schrödinger cats. But before that, I will explain what is a Schrödinger cat for this kind of system. So, you remember that classical states are in fact Poisson distribution of photon number. So this is a classical state of complex amplitude alpha. Okay. A phase state, it is a coherent superposition, which is, it is this state plus this state with an opposite phase, and you have some normalization factor. So which means that Schrödinger cat, it is the state that you construct with classical state. Okay? And to represent this, it is not very, in fact, nice to use the Fock numbers basis. To represent this state, it is much more easier to see this with the Wigner function. The Wigner function is something which is directly related to ρ, but where you see, in fact, the passage between quantum and classical state. So the Wigner function depends on two coordinates. It is here the x coordinates, position of your quantum harmonic oscillator, the impulsion here, and it gives you a real value. It is a kind of pseudo probability, in fact, function, but called the density matrix. So here it is the zero photon number state, so vacuum. So the coherent state, this one with amplitude 1.8, is just this Gaussian, which is translated by 1.8. Here it is the Fock state with 3 photons. And you see that in this pseudo probability function, you have clearly, you see that you have positive but also negative part. And negativeness is in fact a signature of a quantum characteristic of your state. Here you have the coherent state minus alpha, and here what you do is just to take a mixture, a classical mixture, 1/2 of this plus 1/2 of this, you obtain a mixture of minus alpha and plus alpha. But if you take, in fact, the density matrix of the cat state, which is different from this, what you have these two Gaussian here, but here you have fringe, interference fringe. So typically physicists say that it is the legs of the cat, so we have 2 legs cat, and here it is the mustache of the cat. Okay? So, and now what you can do is you can tailor just the interaction between the atoms and the cavity. So instead of using, as previously, only the dispersive regime, where in fact you exchange only phase, you can also use some resonant interaction during the passage of the atom through the cavity. In this case, you change the propagator of the Schrödinger equation. Here you change the operator mg and me. And since you do not care for the detection, what you have is you have just to have the dynamic behavior of your system, just to have the iterate of this cross map. And when you iterate this cross map, I will show you with realistic parameters. You will see that we start from vacuum, and you see the number of atoms that have passed. In fact, you converge after around 20 atoms to a state which is not a perfectly phase cat state, but which is close to this, and the distortion are due, in fact, to the experimental, uncertainties. This is simulation. Okay, but realistic simulation with corresponding to this experimental setups. Okay. So, what is behind this? What you have to do, you can, for this system, have explicit formula for this operator. And you use here typical the alienation, creation operator, and a photon number operator, and you combine this. And you have to do some non-commutative computation to show that you converge to a cat state. So I will not enter into the detail, but it is clear that at this level, you have to investigate the convergence of iterates of Krasner. Okay. So up to now, I have shown you what is the structure, in fact, of open quantum system, but in discrete time. For other kind of open quantum system, but in continuous time, more or less you have the same thing. So let us summarize what we have seen. We have seen that you obtain these models in discrete time by combining Bayes' law, Schrödinger equation for unitary transformation, the standard measurement, in fact, things on the quantum system, and tensor products. Okay. So, here you have discrete models. If you look at what kind of model physicists use for continuous time model, what they have, it is typically a stochastic differential equation. So here I have used a stochastic differential equation driven by a Wiener process. Okay? And the measurements, it is something which is continuous, it is a signal, continuous signal, which is related, which has clearly a stochastic part, but in the slope of the signal, you have the information of what is going on rho. Okay? So it's the way the information gets outside. Okay. And in this case, what you see is that, in fact, on demo you have the drift term, the deterministic term, plus some, in fact, the probabilistic one. It is clear that when you take the ensemble average, this term disappears, and what you obtain is a linear equation, as, in fact, you obtain a linear equation for the cross operator. It is not so simple to see that this equation is the same, but written with an infinitesimal time. And this equation are the same. And to see this, just use this trick. So I have taken only one measurement and one Wigner process. So here it is the stochastic differential equation. And instead of computing the increment on the density operator, just what is the density operator at rho t plus dt here. And it is exactly a partial, some mixing here, divided by the trace, and the measurement depends on the measurement output. So you see that exactly this formula or this formula are exactly the same. Okay? But I think that this formula is much more appealing from a physical point of view than this one. Okay. You can do this exactly the same thing when instead of driving your system with a Wigner process, you drive it with, in fact, a Poisson process. I will not enter into the detail, but you have exactly the same thing. Okay? You can mix both during exactly the same trick. You can have several things here, and you obtain always the same thing. And what is the interest of this kind of formulation of continuous time, in fact, stochastic master equation, is, for example, if you want to have a numerical scheme that preserves the positiveness of rho, and it is especially important because physicists want to look at systems where rho is close to a pure state. So you are close to rho where one eigenvalue is close to 1 and the other close to 0. It is clear that it is not nice to have a numerical scheme where some eigenvalue of rho becomes slightly negative. With this kind of things, you preserve automatically positiveness of the numerical scheme. Okay. So, what I have shown, so I will draft some conclusion. What I have shown here is that, in fact, the structure of the model of open quantum system is quite well understood. Okay? So, there are, in fact, some difficult issues. And the difficult issues are around the convergence analysis and the convergence rate. Okay? Either for quantum channel, Krausnap, or for this kind of Lindblad-Kosakowski master equation. And most of the results in the literature deals when, in fact, your system converge or inside, in fact, the cone of positive matrix, but inside. But what is interesting from a physicist's point of view is to look at, in fact, convergence to the density matrix which is close to the edge, where, in fact, you have a low rank matrix. And for this, most, in fact, of the actual study deals with, in fact, full rank case. Okay? In this case, it is not sufficient to deal with. Another point which is actually looked by physicists, it is when you want to play Lego, okay, with such quantum system. So to connect the output of one quantum system to the input of another one. Which means that the signal sent from the first quantum system to the second one will be, in fact, the output is a quantum signal, the input is also a quantum signal. So we have to imagine something, and here the modeling issue is not so simple, where in fact of having a classical input, which means typically on a wire what you have some amplitude and phase, okay, of your oscillation, of your drive current. Then you may have typically some Schrödinger cats to control your system. So here you need something. Here it is clear that some mathematical methods need to be developed to deal with, in fact, continuous model with quantum input signal. And the last point, which is important here, is the curse of dimensionality, because when you take a composite system, the dimension multiply and not half because of the tensor product. For example, if you take a 10 qubit, the dimension of a Hilbert space is 2 power 10. If you take a 20 qubit, the dimension is 2 power 20, which is huge. How to do numerical computation with such huge space? Because you are not exploring the whole space, you're only exploring some very small zone of this small space. So you have to code the things in a very clever way, in fact, to cope with this curse of dimensionality. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions? No. If not, thank you very much, Gabe. I should not forget this gift from the organization.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So.